Hey guys, Dan here with your weekly Connors review. And if you're a regular viewer of the episodes here on my channel, you have noticed a different background. This is my bedroom. I have a guest currently staying in the basement, so no basement tonight, so a little something different for you to look at, my curtains and my armoire, etc. But anyway, so we are here to talk about the new episode of tonight's Connors. It is called Bad Dads and Grads. And once again tonight, there are kind of three A stories going on. This is, other than the Live from Lanford episode, this is the third episode at least in a row that we've gotten with three A stories. So let's lay them out for you. They each got about the same amount of airtime. So I don't know. I guess we'll go with my favorite and down on the line, maybe? I don't know. So continuing on last week where we met the adult Ed Jr., we have a continuing storyline with that, and the actor from Shameless portraying Ed Jr. is going to continue being a part of the show, at least for a few episodes. I don't know how many episodes he's contracted for, but at least for a little bit. So in this one, we have Dan sort of struggling with learning that his father, who was horrible to him, was kind of a pretty great dad to Ed Jr., his brother, Dan's stepbrother, which sort of lends itself to some humor early in the episode when Becky and Darlene keep calling him uncle. But he learns that Ed paid for Ed Jr. to go to college, something that he never did for his own son, Dan. So obviously there's some resentment issues there. Ed Jr. gives Dan the car that his dad loved so much, and Dan ends up, at the end of the episode, basically blowing it up with dynamite as sort of a cathartic exercise, sort of to help himself heal about having kind of a lousy dad and not wanting to let that affect his relationship with Ed Jr. So that was one story. Then we've got something else continuing from last week, which is Ben and Darlene maybe trying to have a baby. Darlene decided at the very end of the last episode that, okay, I give in, maybe this is something I want to do. So we have that going on. In the beginning of the episode, she goes to a clinic to kind of test her fertility, see how healthy she is. Turns out she's not very healthy, which leads to some good jokes between her and Becky, both at the Lanford lunchbox and in their old bedroom. And her kids, Darlene's kids, find out about everything, and little Mark confronts Ben about it and says, look, what are you doing here? This isn't okay. Everybody sort of thinks it's because Mark is concerned that he will no longer be the baby of the family, but as it turns out, he's more concerned for his mother's health because she is in her mid-40s, and, Mark is a smart kid, so obviously he, went to all these, real deal websites. Darlene even tries to catch him on it, like, oh, well, you can't believe anything on the internet, what site are you getting these from? And he's like, the World Health Organization, all these real professional websites. So it turns out that's sort of his concern. So that was another story as well. And then the, I guess, comic relief story, if you want to call it that, is Jackie being involved with a married couple. At first, it's because she was stood up for a blind date on her very first dating app blind date, and the guy doesn't show up, so this couple, played by real-life husband and wife Jennifer Grey and Clark Gregg, which I didn't realize they were married, actually. I'm sure I heard that in passing at some point. They've been married for many years, but when I looked up his IMDb to see if this was on there, which, by the way, it's not. It's not on either of their IMDb's or Wikipedia's. I'm not sure why or who updates. I know Wikipedia's anybody can update, but IMDb, I feel like this episode was shot 2 months ago. It should have been on there. But anyway, but I found out from that he and Jennifer Grey are married in real life. So anyway, they invite Jackie to sit with them at dinner, end up, paying for her dinner. They have a few laughs, go to karaoke and do Love Shack, send her roses the next day at the lunchbox, and Becky right away is like, oh, this couple wants you to join them, as a throuple, which, I know what that is, Becky knows what that is, but Jackie does not, which sort of, lends itself to, okay, well, let's explain this for all the older viewers watching this show, or, I don't know, I mean, maybe it's not that well known a thing, but I've known what a thruple is for a few years, but so let's explain it to our viewers that might not know, so we get that explanation. But Jackie the whole time's like, no, that's not what this is, whatever. We, the viewer, I think it's fairly obvious that's where this is definitely going. I mean, I figured it out from when they invited her over to the table. I thought maybe it was just going to be more of a threesome kind of thing, as opposed to a married couple that wants to introduce a third into their entire relationship, not just the bedroom, but they took it there. And by the end of the episode, we see that, she's got a full makeover that the couple paid for, and she is actually considering whether or not to do this. Might be fun. She did have a great joke where she said it would kill her mother to bring both of them home and introduce them as, her mates. So that was a big check in the positive column. So those were the three stories. I'm not sure if we needed all three of them in the same episode. I feel sort of cheated a little bit like I did last week. The whole baby thing with Darlene and Ben, that seemed to play out just fine. I didn't mind that at all. Time-wise, it was okay because we devoted a decent amount to it last week. And, this week there wasn't a ton to be said about it. I like that they got the Darlene health stuff in there, and then talked about it a little bit with each of her kids. Harris was basically like, I don't care, I don't even live here anymore, see ya. She's basically an adult at this point, so, right, what does she care, if there's a new baby. But it is interesting, sort of the Connor history repeating itself again because of, obviously, you've got Dan and Ed Jr. here, and now Darlene may be starting a family with another man 18 years after she had Harris. So, there might be something to be said for that. But, listen, the Connors themselves did it. They had Jerry Garcia. When I say the Connors, I mean Dan and Roseanne. When they had Jerry Garcia Connor, even DJ was probably like 14 or something. So, keeping it in the family tradition, I guess. But yeah, I think we spent enough time on that last week. This week, I think it was covered perfectly. We didn't necessarily need more with it, but what we got was fine. I'm not sad that they brought it back up, but with these being 21-minute episodes, it does take away from some of the other storylines. I feel like the Jackie storyline probably got its due. That is a side story, certainly at best. It's the most sitcom-y thing that the Connors has done in a little while. It was very like, I don't know. Clark Gregg was on New Adventures of Old Christine, so I'm thinking of like that kind of, it's very like Mom or, one of those types of shows. So it's, it was a little hacky for me, but I certainly got laughs from it. I think Jackie was very funny in it. She was just wacky enough, I think. I think she was kind of out on a limb there. I love when she showed up with the makeover. I think that scene could have gone on another 30 seconds or so just to kind of flesh out some of those jokes. I thought that was good. I go back and forth, as you might know, on the celebrity aspect of guests on the show, because we have obviously so many recurring actors. Like Katie Seagal was on for a long time. Last season, Matthew Broderick was on for a long time. Or maybe that was 2 seasons ago. No, I think it was last year. But I don't know if these guys are going to stick around or not, but I was kind of on board with it just because I like these two people so much. I love Jennifer Grey and Clark Gregg. I can't say I love him, but he was very funny on New Adventures of Old Christine. I like him in the Marvel movies. So, I think it was good to see them. And now to know that they're married in real life, I think adds a little more fun to it. So I didn't mind that they were celebrities. I do kind of wish maybe they had more of a rotating cast list of non-celebrity guests that might come in. And we've seen some of those along the way. But even J.R. Ferguson, who plays Ben, I mean, he's been on several things. He's maybe not a household name, but people would know him probably to see him. So, I guess I would rather they stick to their recurring characters as big celebrities, as opposed to, for example, that horrible Dan Aykroyd cameo they did. I know ABC kind of pushed them into that, but that was very annoying. The poker scene with Dan Aykroyd, which was completely out of nowhere, added nothing. That was lame. But okay, so on to the big story, which is Dan and Ed Jr.'s relationship. I love that he is, back into the fray. I mean, we haven't seen him since he was a baby. And with that, by the way, so I don't forget to mention it, at the very end, like over basically the end credits, the tag scene was a flashback to when Dan essentially first met Ed Jr., or at least the first time he was babysitting him, and a scene from the very original Roseanne back in like season 3 or whatever it was, maybe even less than that, maybe season 2, where he was feeding him a waffle while he was kind of teething, and filled up the little waffle cups with the spittle. I thought that was really cute. Now, they did something similar, I think it was last season. I don't think it was earlier this season. I think it was last season, and I kind of didn't like it. I was like, it's taking away from this already shortened show. We used to get 25 minutes of Roseanne. Now we get, 21 and a half minutes, whatever. But it was like sort of in the middle of the episode. This was the tag scene, and it was so appropriate and perfect. I really liked the way they did that. I would love more of that with flashback stuff, especially like, I don't know if maybe something with Darlene and Harris, something when she was in the NICU with Harris or whatever. I don't know, just random things you could harken back to. But it begs the question, and it was asked on my comments last week from you guys. It's been asked to me in other conversations I've had off YouTube, and it's been said in some articles I read about last week's episode. Where is Crystal? We have seen Crystal since the rebirth of Roseanne. She was in at least a couple of Roseanne episodes, and then again at the beginning of the Connors. I don't think we've seen her since probably the beginning, like the Roseanne funeral type episodes. She hasn't been on this season at all, but Natalie West, she's obviously still alive. She's still acting, as we've seen her pop up recently on the show in the last couple of years. So where is Crystal in all of this? I said last week here on the review that I was hoping Ed Jr. meant we would see more of Crystal, but we don't. We haven't. Don't know where she is. Also, Ed Jr. mentioned his sister in last week's episode, saying to Dan, hey, me and my sister took care of our father, the last few years all by ourselves. Okay, well, all by ourselves, to me, indicates Crystal was divorced from Ed then. And she was off living her life. She works at the casino. We know that. She got Darlene a job there temporarily. But where is she in all this? And I took that to mean maybe they were divorced. But in addition to that, okay, where is the sister then? I get that they're sort of just forging a relationship now between Dan and Ed Jr., but where is the sister? Now, she would be of college age, so she could be off at college at this point. I think she would probably be 20 or 21 if Ed Jr. is like 20. I don't know if they said his exact age, but, probably 23, 24, something like that. So I'm not sure. I don't know if we're going to see more of Crystal or not, or if we're going to get some sort of like, oh, here's what happened there. I would like that to be something that is at least said, seeing as how we're still waiting on something with Jackie's son, Andy. I know I mentioned a few weeks ago that maybe that was part of the Roseanne dream from the series finale from the original show, that the producers of this show have been saying, like, well, Andy never existed, whatever, whatever. Okay, so maybe that's sort of been answered off the air. Okay, but Crystal obviously is still in Lanford. She is still sort of around. I mean, they're not bumping into her everywhere. They're not, hanging out with her like they did when Roseanne was alive. But where is she in all this? So I would like to see that sort of become an element of this Ed Jr. plotline. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But for now, we're left with a lot of questions about what happened there. My guess is that they got divorced. But, if Ed Sr. was such a great dad to those two kids, maybe he was a better husband to Crystal than he was to Dan's mom. It's hard to say. But yeah, hopefully we find that out in weeks to come. But I like where the story is progressing. I love that, Dan has obviously been mourning the loss of Roseanne since the beginning of the Connors. We get that. Couldn't quite commit to the Katie Seagal character because of that in a relationship. But here, he has a different opportunity for a new family member. One that he hasn't really had. I guess the newest family member to him would be DJ's daughter, Mary. Right? I can't think of anybody else newer than that. Which, by the way, again, we didn't see Michael Fishman or the gal that plays Mary. God, I forget her name. I apologize. I don't want to give her short shrift there. Was it Jaden Ray? Am I making that up? Jaden Ray. Hey, I got it. So they were absent from this episode again. They were not in last week's. I think Mary was in last week's because Ben was getting them ready for school, all the kids, but DJ was not, and DJ was absent here again. Look, I've been saying it for, I'm a broken record at this point. If you can't find anything for DJ to do, just write him out of the show. It's fine. He can come around as Uncle DJ sometimes, our cousin Mary, whatever. But I mean, it's such an easy write out because his wife is in the military. Oh, I'm going to move where, to the base where she is. It writes itself. But, 2 episodes in a row here, I certainly didn't miss him or Mary. And look, he had some funny lines on the live episode. I can't deny that. But that's fine. So bring him in for, for special event episodes or something or whatever. He's obviously still part of the family, but you're not giving him anything to do. So drop him, for God's sakes. I'm sick of it. Every week, I don't miss him. In episodes he's not in, they're packed enough with plots. I don't miss him. I think the Jackie stuff this week was, a little too hammy, a little too sitcom-y for this show, but I did laugh, so I can't deny that. But I really think, the meat of this episode was the Dan and Ed Jr. stuff, so I really liked it for that reason. And I kind of liked the Mark little subplot about being worried about his mom and her health if she has another baby. So I liked that as well. So I think I'm going to leave this episode with a B+. It definitely got the laughs out of me. And by the way, it should be said before I wrap up, Lacey Goranson got probably the 2 biggest laughs of the whole episode for me. So I really like that they're giving Becky a lot of fun things to say. The one was when Darlene came in and said, she's not really healthy enough to have a baby. And she just looked at her dead in the face and she goes, "Is that because you're vegan?" And that was hilarious. So yeah, I'm glad they're, because she really, the last year or so, she's really gotten into a great groove. So I'm always happy to see that. But that's going to do it. Comment below. I always love hearing from you guys. Interesting episode. I think there will be some varying thoughts on it. So maybe you didn't like it as much as I did. But yes, where's Crystal is the question of the day, I think. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye.